Hey! So, today I want to talk about this precious documentary, Thank You, ABBA, released in 1994. This is basically a pendant to this box set, the 4 CD collection, Thank You for the Music. And this is probably one of the first official ABBA retrospectives created for the home video market. We do have The Winner Takes It All Super Trooper from 1999, 2004, but Thank You ABBA was never released into the digital age. This is kind of forgotten, and this is a really good documentary. I really like the focus of it. It's about the beauty, it's about Agnetha and Frida, their vocals, the music. So it brings together this mixture. The sound and beauty is one quote from the documentary, but it's also about the people, about ABBA as human beings. It brings it all together, and I want to bring together a little rundown, some of my personal highlights that I'm taking away with it. The intro to the film is beautiful, with the individual 4 letters flowing in, the members being introduced visually. Overall, the narration is in English language. There are some interviews, especially from fans in other languages, from the fan club in France. It's French interviews. There are also people from the fan club from Sweden and from the fan club from the United States. And the documentary starts with the time of pre-ABBA. Very brief, very on point about the genre, the roots, the style of the individual members before ABBA. It mentions Björn and Benny's Lykke album, and then Stig Andersson, the 5th member, seems to be one of the main voices in this documentary. We are in Stockholm, Polar music in the early 1970s, and that's something I really enjoy most of all, probably the completely chronological aspect of this film. And then there are always these precious interviews, like little postcards. And as I said, one of the main voices is Stig. He says about ABBA, they are not invented. He says they grew together. He talks about the big family, the people working for ABBA, the layout, the costumes, etc. He says that it wasn't only about writing, recording the music, it was everything around. And that comes across in this documentary. The visuals, the graphics, are all based really on original ABBA material, the backgrounds, the logos. I like the way how all the singles are just visually interwoven into each year. And then we also have interview segments with Ove Sandström, the costume designer, talking about how he wanted to create something special for every occasion. It was always a surprise, as some fan later says in the documentary. And it's about ABBA's musical development. Michael Bidratov, the sound engineer, talks about his work with ABBA, about the many elements that he thinks makes the ABBA sound. He says it's Benny's synthesizers, the way Benny plays. That's the main ingredient, according to Dratov. Their approach to music, the fact that it has lots of layers and lots of colors. And by that point, we are only just 15 minutes into this documentary. It's so brief, but as I said, so much on point that you really have such a good impression of who and what ABBA is, with everything surrounding their story, their origins, everything involved around ABBA. Rune Söderqvist, the art director, talks about ABBA's logo. He talks about ABBA's arrival artwork and the concept, the helicopter. Later, he remembers the concept for ABBA the album and ABBA the movie. And then the film is about the movie, about that first international concert tour. The narration mentions the set list, the structure and feeling of the concerts. And then there is a section in this film just showing scenes from the tour. as taken from ABBA the movie. And I think at this point in the film it's really good to just take in the music and ABBA. And then it continues with more praise by Michael B. Tretow for the voices, and how much more he realized later just how good Frida and Agneta were, and how much he appreciates them now later on. Stig Andersson praises Benny and Björn as songwriters. He praises Frida and Agneta for their appearances and for their singing. Again, a good mix of everything, as he says. And I really like how all those important historic chapters are documented. Not only the tours, later the Second World Tour, but there's also a segment about May 1978, the ABBA month in America. And again, I really like that they also always bring in the visual aspects. The costumes are so often based on ABBA's national roots. The Swedish colors in the 1975 cat costumes, blue and yellow, Swedish animals in the 1978 costumes. And again, for ABBA the album, it's about the evolution in ABBA's music. The lyrics are more profound, there is a new style in the music. It says about ABBA that they knew how to blend modern genres like disco with their own style. And ABBA is praised for their musical ability and expertise. And then we found ourselves in 1978, the opening of the Polar Music Studio. Michael B. Tretow talks about the evolution of ABBA's complexity, how they started on 8-track and ended on 32-track digital. I like how the film also documents ABBA's releases besides the studio albums. It mentions Greatest Hits from 1975, Greatest Hits Volume 2 from 1979, even mentions the Spanish album, Frida's and Agneta's work on it, and that final compilation from ABBA's active time from 1982. There is an anecdote by Rune Söderqvist, how they wanted to shoot on the North Pole, but it didn't work out. And then it's about that more well-known story, how they wanted to shoot at the Piccadilly Circus, couldn't do it as well. And at the end for Super Trooper they stayed in Stockholm, of course, and shot at the familiar film studios Europa Film. The Day Before You Came is also mentioned, and the music video is referred to as an innovative music video. The film then mentions the solo work from the 80s until 94. Basically, so this is like a circle to the individual pre-ABBA work. And one of the final images is ABBA in the Under Attack music video, walking into the glistening light. Throughout the film, the ABBA relationships are briefly mentioned. There's nothing dramatical here. I just enjoy that. And one of the most beautiful aspects to me was all those statements about ABBA as people from those who knew them, who worked with them every day. Tretow says that it was so easy going with them. He says that a few times, but that they were incredibly hard working. And costume designer Ove Sandström, he mentions that ABBA are fantastic as people, as human beings, and that they always had a little extra word for everyone, and that ABBA and the members were always so respectful and so caring. That was one of my favorite aspects to hear, just to hear. And it's incredible, as I said, how much there is in this film. This is only 50 minutes long, but that makes it even more astounding how well it works. It never feels too quickly, never too much, but it brings together all those aspects: the music, the evolution, the visuals, and the people. It's all just so much on point, and I think that this one has the most important aspects of the story of ABBA, all in one place. and it's a serious look at ABBA. And the documentary has only ever been released on VHS tapes, but there is a beautiful digitization on YouTube, here on the great channel Robert Mancini, where you can watch the entire documentary. Let me know your thoughts about Thank You ABBA from 1994. Have you seen it back in the day? What did you think of it? What are your memories? And also, please let me know which aspect of the story and group ABBA is what you think is the most precious one. The evolution of their music, the intertwining of Swedish culture, the people themselves, ABBA, the people around them. What are the most overlooked aspects of ABBA? Let me know, and let me know your thoughts about this documentary down in the comments below. Alright, until then, hey do!